Hey guys, Towers here. Been messing with the HCR lately. Um, Said before that you can write off LMGs as a category. Um, Seem to be not worth it, but I've been slowly changing my mind. I picked up just a 3 attachment ground loot HCR in Koche a few nights ago, and felt like it was just tearing through the tier 2 and 3 bots, and it got me curious about its viability. So I went and started playing around with the build. Um, these are the same build, just with a suppressor versus a compensator. I really wanted to squeeze out as much damage range and bullet velocity as I could. And the barrel that comes on it seems to be already kind of a long, heavy barrel with no like mobility debuffs. This actually seems to be a shorter barrel. It has a it takes away from your damage range. And I've experimented with this one. It doesn't seem to seems to be really bouncy. But just the standard barrel seems good enough, or a better option than these other ones, which is nice. You'll save yourself an attachment slot. I'm always a fan of using the iron sights whenever possible, and a lot of the weapons I use, that's one of the first things I look for, is if the iron sights, if the sight picture is good. That's going to save you another attachment slot right there. You're always going to be having to bank on using the mag attachment to have a bigger mag on an LMG or an AR platform. And on those two platforms, you're also going to have to bank on using the AP rounds, the ammo type weapon attachment. It's just going to boost your overall damage output and allow you to start penetrating through semi-hard and hard cover, what the game calls a wall bang. It still surprises me that many players, Call of Duty veterans, guys that have been playing this game since launch, still don't understand that that's a built-in intended feature of the game, that you're supposed to be able to shoot through walls. And I think that just speaks to many people's low IQ, low game IQ, low sense of just many people are not gamers at heart. They don't experiment and play around, try new things, and understand that that the game intentionally wants you to try to shoot through cover, modeling, real world ballistics. I'm using a suppressor and an underbarrel attachment, and this gun just default has a really bad ADS time. Just show that to you real quickly. It's not terrible, but it's definitely not the best. And when you get to moving around, especially at these closer ranges like 10 meters, 10, 15 meters, that actually adds up a lot. It's taking a bit away your ability to quickly put shots on target. You can line up your crosshairs and aim in, but you don't always want to be waiting for your crosshairs to line up perfectly on a guy before you start ADSing. When you get a full sight picture like this, you're gonna be more accurate out of the gate. You're gonna know exactly where those bullets are gonna be landing at your front sight post, and especially when you start jumping and ADSing, that's a very slow time for any weapon, but especially a weapon that has a very bad ADS default. So because the weapon is very heavy at its base, and because we're using an underbarrel attachment and a suppressor, we're going to have to use an ADS laser on the weapon. And again, I've chosen the suppressor. I'm trying to get as much damage range and bullet velocity as I possibly can to extend the effective range of the weapon to what I feel like it should be able to reach out at the distances. An LMG is going to be a medium to long range weapon. It's not a close range weapon. You're going to need all of that damage range possible to maximize the effectiveness of your wall banging, and you're going to want as much bullet velocity as possible to make those rounds connect faster, so that you don't have to do as much calculation with lead or drop. There's not much bullet drop in the game anyway, besides on extreme long distance sniping, but the connection time, what players would call like hit scan, is if the game gives you an ability to boost that, you're going to want to take advantage of that. And it's just going to lead to quicker armor breaks, quicker downs, quicker kills, and time is life in this game. And we've gone with this particular underbarrel attachment because the weapon is already so heavy that I don't think you want to go for something like an F-Tac Ripper, even though it may give you better stats on paper. It's going to just slow your ADS time that much further. And the very lightweight underbarrel, the angled foregrips are, I think you can get more out of just with a almost negligible debuff to your mobility by going with a slightly heavier one. So I've tended towards this, the Nexus grip or the Phase 3, for a good kind of like medium weight angled foregrip, and gone with the Nexus on the HCR because the Phase 3 on this bar graph over here says it gives you more accuracy, but you're going to notice that it takes away from your mobility and your handling stats even more. So I've gone with a slightly lighter weight angled foregrip with the Nexus, and that's still going to give me aiming idle stability and recoil stabilization. On ARs and LMGs, you're going to want to just generally stay away from the vertical foregrips, as all of them are going to give you, they're more geared towards hip fire accuracy, and you're never going to want to put any kind of bipod on even an LMG, just because that's going to hamper your movement and agility with a weapon. And you don't want to be, you can still mount with even without a bipod or any other uh, underbarrel attachment, any foregrip, but um, you don't want to be relying on that bipod mount. Uh, you're just making yourself a really easy headshot target. If you're using a bipod, you're not going to be moving at all, and you're not going to be you're not going to be you're not doing yourself any favors really by using a bipod. You're just staying stationary. Um, you're locked into that firing position, and you're going to be wanting to balance um, your mounted time with your free aiming time. The rotational aim assist in many cases is going to give you more options, and it's going to make you harder to hit, and uh, you're not really going to be mounted that often. Um, you're not going to be in a perfect position of vertical height advantage or have a piece of hard cover to mount to. Um, and as far as I know, the bipods don't work on they're not going to work on a vertical mount. They're only going to work on a horizontal mount. So this may even block your ability to do horizontal mounting, but I haven't tested that. I'd have to test it to be sure. But the game does say that it blocks your NVGs, which is not a big deal. You're not going to be using NVGs ever unless you're in Koche complex, but even still, um, I run Koche quite often as a regain, and um, I don't want to have to, you know, use a thermal optic or just shoot blindly in dark zone. So that's one of the builds for the HCR, and then the other one is just it's the same exact thing, just with a compensator instead of a suppressor, just to give me a little bit more of my mobility back. And I've gone with the Komodo Heavy because that only focuses on horizontal recoil, which is the hardest type of recoil to compensate for, no matter your input, whether you're on controller or mouse and key. It's very easy to pull mostly down on the stick rather than down into uh, to the left or right. You're just eliminating an entire axes that you have to calculate for. So and what I wanted to do is I was watching Choke play earlier, and he said that his preferred, he actually really likes the RAL, but his preferred LMG is actually the Saken. And I've said before that the RAL is probably the lowest damage LMG. But I was watching him play with the RAL. He had killed a guy that was using a RAL, or a guy had killed him that was using a RAL, and that inspired him to build out a RAL and take it in on the very next match. I was watching him do some really good work with the RAL at the buy station at just south of Quarry over the railroad tracks. And it seemed like it was breaking and downing guys in a relatively low amount of rounds. And so I might have been wrong about the damage output of the RAL, at least at those close ranges. The RAL is a weapon that actually has a decent iron sight picture. It's very good, clean front post, but it is kind of small, and the rear sight is a bit chunky and can kind of confuse you in a high pressure situation, especially at close ranges. But he was using some kind of red dot optic, and that seemed to work out pretty well for him. As you can see, that front sight post is quite skinny, and although I do like a kind of a thinner front sight post, it's almost like too thin, and it can kind of, even on these target dummies, it's kind of blending into their to their chest. So on this front sight, on this front dummy here at 10 meters, it's hard for me to even see exactly where that front sight post is landing. So he was using just some kind of red dot. I think it was maybe like an aim op or something like that. But the Cronin Mini Pro is my preferred red dot because it's actually a blue dot. It contrasts very well with that final red X hit marker. And it seems to show up a little bit better on a map like Al Mazrah that's in broad daylight, where a red dot can kind of blend into the desert terrain oftentimes, and with a lot of the brown and gray tones, the blue kind of stands out a little bit better. And especially with that final red hit marker by default. I don't even have the Sakin leveled up all the way. It's only like halfway there, level 10 to 20. But Choke was saying that he likes the Sakin because it has a 150 round magazine capacity at the top end, which is more than any other LMG. So I'll have to get this at least to level 15 to unlock that option. But at the base it's 100 rounds, so I mean that's already at the max capacity of something like the HCR. Don't have the ammunition type unlocked, which I wouldn't have until, let's see where it gets me to, armor piercing. And I may have maybe one of those weapons where I have to level up some other weapon to get armor piercing on this thing. Yeah, I'm only seeing incendiary there, so it's probably a case where I have to level up some completely different weapon. Let's see what the iron sight picture looks like on the Sakin. Very bulky rear sight. Got a clean front sight picture, but it does have those two support sights, those two guards on the left and right of the front sight post, which can lead to some confusion in a high pressure situation. So I'd probably want to use a red dot on this thing. Looks like we still have the front sight post, so but at least it eliminates the rear sight. Let's see if we can maybe go for like an AMOP. See if that would completely clear the front sight post. It does clear it. You still have the front sight post there, but that might lead to some confusion as well. So I have to probably play around with different sight options. Let's see if anything else is better. It's at least a little bit closer. The dot and the front sight post are a little bit closer together on this one, so not too bad. Alright, so with this one we do clear that front sight problem. And I don't have tuning on it, so I can't back the eye position all the way to far. To reduce that visual recoil. Sight picture on this is not that bad, but does have that kind of circle around the dot. I prefer just the dot by itself. That circle when you're tracking a moving target could lead to a little bit of laziness. And let's say if like you're over here, you know, you recognize that the circle, that larger circle is kind of in that guy's chest, but you're really on, you know, one of his arms. And so you'll start firing like maybe about here, and you'll be not getting the full damage of hitting into his plate carrier. Be doing like minimal arm damage on him. You don't need to go with any of these higher magnifications, like higher than 3 or 3.5 times zoom. You're just going to be zoomed in too much, and you're not going to be sniping with this thing. You're going to be just laying on the gas pedal all the way. pretty hard pull to the left, and it's pretty inconsistent. So we're definitely going to want some kind of horizontal recoil mitigation. fire rate's not very high. It's also not very low. It's kind of in the middle. Looks like it's a 7-shot armor break, 6 or 7 shot. A little bit more bouncy with the suppressor versus a compensator. We're just going to have worse mobility. Might be different with tuning, but the Sakin Tread 40 muzzle device seems like it's maybe a better option for now. Irons aren't too bad, but do you have a lot in your face with that rear sight? Kind of see a little bit of that tracking problem I was talking about. Kind of winging the guy instead of hitting him center mass. This SRO gives you that clear red dot and also gives you those painted reticles. Kind of help you to correct your dot placement a little bit faster. Gives you like a reference point, especially with that center upward pointing arrow there. And the laser is also doing that for you too at an angle. It's going to help that ADS toggle when you're missing slightly and having to pull yourself out of ADS to quickly snap back on. So you can save that as a Mark 1. But this looks okay for now. I didn't really even impact the already poor mobility and handling stats that much. Actually gained a little bit in handling, probably with that laser, and just a hair worse with mobility, but that's a good thing. We already have like an immobile weapon. We don't want to make it an absolute brick in our hands. but we'll have to take this into Kosh and get it leveled up all the way with a couple Kosh runs, just opening the doors, spawn doors, the alpha cluster, factory admin, L2 zones, stuff like that. And we'll get tuning unlocked, and we'll be able to finalize the build, figure out exactly which attachments I want to go with. I know I want to go with the AP rounds, so I might, sacrifice the foregrip, or maybe even the laser. Um, Laser really helps with that initial ADS, that kind of scoop up that he's doing here when I go from like attack sprint into full ADS. But that's it for now. Just wanted to get an initial sack and build done. Running on low bat right now, so I'm going to back myself out and thank you guys for tagging along. I hope you learned something, and I'll catch you guys very soon in the next one.